We're live.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Bank to the Future Live, episode 93. We were due to go live today to celebrate the fact that we have now had over $1 invested in funding rounds listed on our platform. And in true crypto style, we have a bunch of drama as well at the same time. So we're also going to be responding to lots and lots of drama that we've been receiving on Twitter, and our Telegram channel as well. So if you're not in those communities, make sure you join those if you want to stay up to date. But Celsius, we love you, of course. We're shareholders. You've made our life a little bit problematic with some of the drama that we're going to respond to. But before we do that, we have some good news for you, some not so good news, and some great news that we're going to be covering in Bank to the Future Live, episode 93. And of course, this is just me. Rather than interviewing one of our portfolio companies, we are going to be covering as many of your questions as possible because a lot of them are coming in. So how do you get your question answered? If you look at the screen share shortly, Azad will pull up the Slido page. And on that Slido page, you can scan the QR code, or you can follow the link in this description, and you can ask as many questions as you choose. This will give you a little bit hint of the drama that we're going to be covering today that came up in our Telegram community group. But hit that QR code and you can upvote other people's questions, or you can ask your question as well and try and get that upvoted. And we're going to answer as many of those as we can in the next hour, once I've covered the good news, the not so good news, and the great news, of course. So we're going to be, that's what we're doing today. But thank you all for joining us. It is a truly tremendous feat to be the very longest standing company in Bitcoin and the world's first crypto securities business, and to now have our investors that have now invested over $1 billion in funding round listed on our platform. I still remember to this day when we first launched and we couldn't find any investors that would want to invest in any company associated with Bitcoin or crypto. I remember our shareholders going berserk at us when we said we're going to be supporting the Bitcoin community when we were trying to pivot away from creating a bank. But it's just incredible to look back at this journey all these years later, since we first started over a decade ago, and see what our industry has achieved. And thanks in part to you and your investing. You created this industry at Bank to the Future. Your good hard dollars were put to work. Some of those have just been not quite performing as well as you'd like, but some of them have gone on to become multi-billion-dollar unicorns and reinvented the entire financial system. And we are only just getting started. So we are really, really grateful to all of our investors that have contributed in any way, shape, or form to building the future of finance by investing in companies that are now really producing rewards. It was interesting this year as well. We started to get busier than we have ever experienced in our life. And that was because so many of the companies were either failing or succeeding in a big way that we got hit with approximately 30 corporate actions all at the same time. And so we have been tirelessly working with our corporate finance team, our pitch management team, our investor relations team, our technology team, our compliance team, in order to execute on all of these incredible things that are happening to our companies that all have a slightly different shape and procedure. So before I cover the good news, the not so good news, and the great news, I'm going to quickly jump into some of the things that our team have been working on and the reason why we want as many people to apply for many of the jobs that we're going to be putting on our careers page on BnkToTheFuture.com. We are looking for developers. We are looking for marketing people. We are looking for account managers to help our investors. We are looking for people that want to work in compliance, people that want to work in finance. If you want to be involved in the future of finance and work with a high-performance, mission-led team, then we would like to see your CV and hear from you. Only half the jobs are up right now, but our HR team are working around the clock in order to put all of those roles up and building the systems to scale our teams to the next stage. But here's what we've been up to and why we need more people. That is that we one of our biggest problems right now is that every funding round we put live doesn't even make it to go in live on our platform because our premium members just soak up all the shares and existing investors, and we can't even get it live. So in the time that we've been doing this, we've had sold out Branca Series B pitch, which is now raised approximately $20 million, sold out Securitized Series B pitch. I think they did approximately $40 million. Don't hold me to that, with some lead investors of largest companies in traditional finance. We sold out the recap seed round, which is tax solutions for crypto people that want to have privacy as well. We had recap. If you haven't watched BF Live episode 92, and you can see the interview with Dan on how to sort out your crypto tax mess, and the recap pitch, which just went sold out before we did it live. Functionally, even I didn't get to invest in time. Managed to get the team to reserve some allocation, but it was one that I wanted to be in, and all of your investors beat me as well. We do like to do this fairly. We sold out the Uno Coin Series C pitch, and that went out before we could put it live as well. We wanted more allocation. We begged for more allocation. Our investors snapped it up, and they couldn't get any more allocation because of all of the investors that wanted in. We have onboarded our first 10 retirement plan B portfolio builder customers, our partnership with Celsius and First Digital Trust, to bring asset protection structures to our investors that want to plan their inheritance, get the tax structure right and clear, and also invest in cryptos like Bitcoin and ETH automatically, have them lent out through our partner Celsius, and also have those where they can build a portfolio of equity in the largest companies in crypto. It's the retirement plan that I wish that I could have had over the last decade, that we all wish we could have had over the last decade. And now the portfolio builder is live with our first 10 beta customers, with approximately 20,000 on the waiting list that we cannot wait to onboard and bring in as soon as we've got more account managers that can handle the demand as well. So those were all snapped up and taken up straight away. We had the Coinbase IPO. Now we've been working on a process to be able to have those where you can have an account, hold those in custody, and be able to sell those without having to have them transferred to a broker through the traditional financial system, really refining the process for our IPOs and simplifying that process. It's been very, very tricky getting those shares transferred through the traditional financial system. The First Digital Trust and the BnkToTheFuture team have come up with great structures to support that. We are sorry that it's taken this long, but we now have a refined process that we're very looking forward to rolling out. Once we got that, we've also got the RobbinHood IPO. The vesting period expires in December, followed by the Circle IPO, all done by a SPAC. And we had FV Bank that had to close early because they were sold out. We had the Exodus dividend distribution, offering our investors 158x return on their original investment. We had the Wirex, which was offering 38x return to the current valuation. We had the Checkbook Series B. We had the Scenario that paid back investors, even though they went through a liquidation proceeding, and all of those funds have now been distributed to investors. We had Storage that bought back their shares in their company using their token, and people were able to decide and vote on which way they wanted to go. We even had one of our very early portfolio companies that does 3 funding rounds on BnkToTheFuture, Shapeshift, become a decentralized autonomous organization, and they're going to be distributing all of the assets that they built up as a company to our shareholders. And token distribution 1 was distributed yesterday, with another 5 token distributions to be distributed all over the next 6 years. We had Bitso becoming a unicorn at their $2 billion valuation, and announcing that they're becoming one of the main partners with the first country in the world to make Bitcoin legal tender, El Salvador, which is awesome to see. We saw the BitPay Series C get a shareholder vote. We saw Start Engine, other platforms that are looking to support the US as well. Chronicle, a very large institutional investor, they'll be making an update soon, and improvements to the terms as well, because to meet and match the lead investor as well. And we had Abra that is looking to close their Series C, got the votes, and we'll be catching up with the Abra team to see what that is. We also had the Celsius update that we will be updating and answering your questions on after Alex, the CEO of Celsius, made some updates on the funding round. We'll obviously be covering that. I think that's one of the top questions on the Slido board. If you're joining us now, make sure you head over to sli.do, and if you put in the hashtag box BF93, you'll be taken to a board like this. No account is needed, and you can ask as many questions or upvote other people's questions. And once I've delivered the good news, the not so good news, and the great news, then we'll be jumping straight into your questions. So let's start with the good news. The good news is that our team has been working around the clock in order to be able to offer much, much better investment products for our investors, which involved additional license applications. One of those license applications was that we completed our registration with our regulator for what's known as a virtual asset service provider. So we have the pre-registration, and we are obviously able to continue offering our services, and that means that we can offer certain services to a much, much wider audience than we were ever able to service before. So it now means that non-high net worth investors can sign up to Bank to the Future, and they are able to purchase Bitcoin. They're able to take any of their funds that they may have received and trade them between each other. We did the Binance announcement and integration. And now we've got our virtual asset service provider registration completed, ready for, which is the very, one of the very first out there, ready so that we can significantly improve the number of services and reach a much, much wider audience for many of our virtual asset services. Virtual asset is just our regulator's way of saying cryptocurrency and other virtual, cryptocurrencies, whatever they might be, digital tokens. Every regulator is calling them a slightly different thing as these get defined. So now to the not so good news. The not so good news is that as of the 10th of October, 2021, we were due to release an announcement. It will be coming out after we post this so that you've got all the details in front of you in written form. But as of the 10th of October, 2021, in order to go through the stage for the great news and to remain in compliance with our new virtual asset service provider registration, we need to release BFID, that's Bank to the Future Identity version 2. And version 2 is to upgrade all of the compliance requirements in line with many, many of the changing environments that are happening right now. In fact, regulations are changing and upgrading every day as our market gets bigger and bigger and bigger. It's probably why you've received thousands of emails or hundreds of emails, or depending on how many services you are, from different cryptocurrency exchanges requesting you to complete their KYC or complete and provide additional documentation. But we've always tried to stay one step ahead of that. We know and appreciate that our investors are extremely frustrated by that. We hate collecting the documents just as much as you hate providing them. In fact, it costs us a great deal in terms of time, effort, energy, and also our relationship with our investors. But it means that we can offer this service, and it's made us the longest standing company in Bitcoin. But despite all of our efforts, BFID version 2 we've been working for over a year with our regulator in order to make sure that they're comfortable with a new iteration of BF Identity. And I think our regulator is very progressive and forward-thinking in that they're trying to make sure that they can maintain their global status. And unfortunately, what that means for you is that we're going to need to reclassify everyone's investor account to come in line with the fact that we're now offering virtual asset service provision and a new license, which is the great news that we're also applying for, that we will be updating you as we progress from that. So on 10th of October, 2021, we will be releasing Bank to the Future Identity version 2. And it does require you providing additional information so that we can comply with all of our additional regulatory requirements and make sure that we meet those needs as we move into the next phase of services that we are offering to our investors that want to invest in the future of finance. This will require a few things. It will need you to provide some additional information that all of the crypto exchanges, all of the companies out there, they're going to be sending you emails in the future and letting you know what that additional information is. We're trying to get ahead of that, and some additional documentation as well. And so what we need to do is we need to reclassify every investor so that we can ensure that they have documentation to back up everything that they told us. So when you signed up to Bank to the Future, you would have said that what type of investor you were. Our regulator is requiring us in order to get some additional documentation. And if people are more concerned about privacy, which I completely understand, and don't want to provide that, then it will have to limit some of our services. But this will be happening on the 10th of October. In light of that, what we have decided to do, and some of the great news, is make sure that many of our investors are not missing out on deals. So we notified all of our companies that the pitches need to be complete by the 10th of October, because we don't want to release BF Identity version 2 at the same time as onboarding new investors with very, very popular pitches like Celsius. And so the drama that we're talking about is we sent that update to Celsius. We love Celsius. We're partnering with Celsius on our retirement plan B products. We are shareholders in Celsius. I'm personally an investor in Celsius, but we let them know about our upcoming deadlines, and we would love to support them as long as they can meet our upcoming deadlines. And so that's led to a lot of questions being asked. And if Celsius are able to meet those deadlines, it's not necessarily their fault. Getting a lead investor means that there's a billion things to negotiate, a billion documents to upgrade. They're also migrating from a UK company to a US company. That team have been achieving incredible things, scaling from like 50 to 500 in an incredible period of time. Going from where they are to $20 billion of assets under management, creating one of the fastest growing companies that our investors invested into on BnkToTheFuture.com. But also they are looking to make those announcements. And that's the update on that, really. So we would like to support them if they can meet that deadline. If not, we'll support them in finding another way. They are committed to making sure their investors get an allocation in the round, and wherever this goes, we support our companies. In the past, we've even funded our competing platforms. Start Engine is one of our platforms that they might end up using. We bring that opportunity for you to invest in a company like Start Engine. We are all about driving the industry forward and collaboration for that. So we will look to support our companies, our portfolio companies, in any way that we can. But the announcement was made by Alex on the podcast before we made the announcement. And so I wanted to make sure that we cleared that up, because we weren't quite ready to make this announcement. We needed another week to clear up some things. But hey, it doesn't matter. We'll bring these things forward. This is what BF Live is about. It's about you getting your question answered and us being able to communicate with our community as things progress. So not so good news. Unfortunately, you're going to have to reclassify your accounts as of October the 10th. But the great news is that once we have that classified, then we can offer you the exact service. We have services available for non-high net worth investors, services available for high net worth investors. But once people have proved that they meet those requirements, just like we have always done, for example, with many of our US investors, international standards are really coming in line with US standards at the moment. And so we are making sure that we get ahead of that and maintain our great relationship that we have built with the regulator in order to make sure that we are meeting all of these international requirements that we can meet and do best effort. That leads to frustration, as we said, sometimes frustration for us, frustration for our investors, but the law is the law, and that's what we've got to do. So what's the great news? The great news is that once we have reclassified all of our investors, And we know with our regulator calls people high net worth investors, professional investors, private clients. Private clients is their word for retail investors. And once we've reclassified that, we are in the process of applying for our new license. This does not affect anything that we're doing. So we've been, the new license is about expanding the number of investors that we can work with to what we call private clients. So if any of our investors don't want to, provide additional documentation saying they're a high net worth investor, it means, unfortunately, you won't be able to use the service in the transition period until a new license is secured. But anyone that does do that, they'll be able to use our service and reclassify as the new high net worth investor. And just really reclassifying what you already classified when you onboarded with Bank to the Future in the first place, and providing any additional documents so that we can provide that service. But here's the great news. The great news is that new license application, once we have completed this process, means that we can reach, if successful, once our regulator signs off on that, a much, much wider audience than we have ever been able to do before. And so we're really, really excited to be able to do that. So here's a few things that will be happening next. That means that we need to go through some of these new processes, reclassifications. We've got a bunch of companies that are going to be going live, and if they can meet that deadline, they'll be, the latest to go live on a 30-day pitch will be the 10th of September, and then it will be expired by the 10th of October. After that, the great news as well is that we are going to be working with our infamous retirement plan, the online coaching program Group 2, with so many thousands of people and tickets that we've been receiving that want to join that to sort out their inheritance structuring with crypto, their retirement planning, their tax situation, understanding that, with all of the professionals we had. Some of the greatest people in the industry, whether you want to learn security from Andreas Antonopoulos, whether you want to learn inheritance from the author of Crypto and Asset Planning, Inheritance Planning, whether you want to learn from the author of the Bitcoin Standard, Saifedean Ammous, on Bitcoin pricing models, are my personal tax advisors on the crypto tax side, and all of the financial planning and the investment strategies. We'll be doing that once we go through the period between putting new pitches live and then going for the new additional license. Once we've reached a critical mass of reclassified high net worth investors, then we can start launching some new pitches. And once we get the additional license, if we secure that, if the regulator signs off on that, then we will be able to take on those, what they call private clients as well. We get the demand for that has been absolutely incredible. We already have millions and millions of dollars that are looking to invest in that. We've already taken on our first 10. They are building their equity portfolios through their asset protection structures. They are, receiving yield already through Celsius. They have their custody accounts. And we're going through the first investment cycle. We'll go through the second investment cycle. And then we'll look to expand to those that have been classified as high net worth investors to be able to take on that portfolio builder product as well. The reality is that we've been through our annual audits. This is where we laid out the foundation for the technology behind Bank to the Future Identity version 2. The techno team have been working around the clock in order to release this. And we're all going through the acceptance testing, getting ready for that October the 10th. Then we can start focusing on retirement plans, securing additional licenses to open up to a much, much wider audience, take on the next round of online coaching programs, and also take advantage of the fact that we can now work with additional clients offering additional services through our virtual asset service provider registration. And seeing, this is these registrations and new licenses are popping up all around the world. And many of our portfolio companies are adjusting to these crypto specific regulations that are coming up. And we're updating you of that. And because Alex from Celsius gave that update, we thought we'd release that on this episode, to the Future Live, episode 93. And we'll continue to update with anything that we can release with what that happens, either to shareholders in Celsius, or if we end up being able to support them in the funding round before that deadline, then we look forward to seeing if the lead investor can be secured in time. We look forward to further updates on that. So without further ado, that is the good news, the not so good news, and the great news, what we're going to be up to, what our roadmap looks like, and some of the things that we are planning in order to get through the next phase of the adoption in our industry, and a bunch of things that we've been working on as a team. And remember, more career opportunities than ever before, trying to get those opportunities up on the platform so that everybody can start making those applications, and we can expand the size of the team. So Azad, I reckon this is a great time to jump into questions. How much of the time did I take? I took 26 minutes, leaving us with 35 minutes to answer as many questions as we can get through. So Azad, what do we got?
Yeah, first question from Alan. There's been speculation that the second Celsius funding round has been cancelled because Bank to the Future are no longer funding equity raises. Is this true?
So already answered that question, but maybe you're joining us at this point. We have set a cutoff date to the 10th of October for our clients to be live on our platform. And then we are able to work with those that reclassify as high net worth investors. And we apply for an additional license to be able to work with what our regulator called private clients. And so, no, we haven't canceled anything. It's just a question of can all the documents be completed and signed by that deadline, or we will support them in another platform that maybe can meet their needs if they need a bit more time, or maybe, we're not sure exactly where this goes out. Maybe they're not ready until the new registration is secured and we wait there. We're open to working with the Celsius team in any way that we can to support them.
Okay, the next question from H3 is, I think it's more of a statement. So obviously the primary concern is Mashinsky, which is Alex Mashinsky, is claiming that Bank to the Future won't be doing any funding rounds after September.
Yep, so covered that one already in the previous question. H3 is one of our regular investors. Always appreciate your input in the Telegram group as well. And thank you for being a great Bank to the Future investor that always holds us accountable to our higher standard, but at the same time is a valuable community member and one of our loyal investors as well.
Okay, hi Simon, what could we expect in terms of frequency of new deals during the year? I asked the question as I'd like to allocate evenly my money over the year. Is there a chance to let us know that something is coming a bit in advance?
Yeah, I mean, this is exactly why we never let people know what's coming a bit in advance, because something like what happened with Celsius can happen. Celsius mentioned they want to go live. We hadn't sorted out all the legal agreements yet. And so we don't want to disappoint people. So we don't announce anything until legal agreements are signed and everything's ready. It's just been our policy. It causes less disappointment. We like to try and over deliver rather than under deliver. And so sometimes the world just, crypto is a crazy world. And sometimes you have all the intention and all the plans, but something comes along. We might be going live with a deal, and then all of a sudden some regulatory thing happens that changes everything. So until we're ready to go live, but if you want 48 hours priority access to every deal, make sure you got up to at least 10,000 Bank to the Future tokens on the platform, so you get 48 hours, and really they all tend to sell out in the 48 hours now. So that's important. In terms of what we've got coming up this year, we have 6 deals that are under contract that are trying to meet that deadline. And if we end up doing an allocation for Celsius, then we have that one as well. And then we will be focusing on onboarding high net worth clients, reclassifying those as private clients, and then applying for additional licenses to serve those private clients in the future if our regulator approves that, and focusing on the Retirement Plan B online coaching program and portfolio builder, just like we did this time last year. And what an incredible year it's been. So yeah, I understand the request, but we like to take the cautious approach of not announcing anything until we're 100% sure that no change is going to happen.
Question from Greg. Hi there. Do you have any news developments on FV Bank and Securitize? Are they progressing well? Is there a way to get regular updates through Bank to the Future platform related to companies we've invested in? Thanks.
Yeah, one trend that we've started to notice is that as the VCs come in, and we've started to really notice this trend, our investors invest early, they get the upside. A VC comes in and tries to negotiate all the removal of many terms. We've been sending out all these notices for people to vote on. And as we're not a discretionary fund manager and we're not managing these investments on your behalf, you're making investments, we're facilitating that. Then we've been sending out these agreements as well. And so one of the things that we're noticing is a big trend in VCs trying to restrict some of the information rights. So it really depends on transparency of the company. As minority shareholders, often we cannot influence that. But if Securitize and FV Bank have a culture of acting like a public company, giving investor updates, we post on all those updates. We also reach out to those investors, those clients when we can. But the challenge that they often have is they are often scaling like crazy, don't have investor relation resources. And so it's often up to the CEO to start posting those updates. We have companies that have been awesome at giving updates like Exodus, and we've had other companies that have been awful, and we're constantly chasing. And so where we can, try and put those rights in there, but often as a minority shareholder, those rights are not be able to be enforced. And it comes as one of the risks of investing in private equity, lack of information rights, which is one of the things that we always try to warn people in the risk warnings. And you know, Securitize have been doing incredibly well. They haven't been posting many investor updates because their new investors want a lot of things to be kept confidential and don't want it to be leaked. A company like Celsius, they are very, very transparent. They go live every single week. And even if someone's not a shareholder, they treat them as a team member and tend to be that. So they give less investor updates because they're just going live every single week in their communities. And then we have some that semi-regularly, after a lot of chasing, post updates, but they have to deal with the sensitivity of information not leaking. It's a very delicate line. It's a very challenging thing. And we have tried many different iterations to do that. But often it's detrimental to your shareholding if people start sharing information. And unfortunately, that does happen. So with regards to FE Bank, all investors receive a post on the investor. If they do anything that needs share notice and votes, then we send that out. They do have access to those investor zones. But we've noticed that just so many people in our industry are under-resourced, having incredible scaling challenges, growing like crazy, and it ends up that the CEO is getting those notifications and they don't necessarily have an investor relations team. So we will continually do what we can to improve those comms, but it's a constant challenge that we've had throughout our history as a company. And so, yes, if we had the information, we pass it all on, but we're not the company. We can't write the investor update. We can only support them where we can.
Okay, Greg asks another question. Are you planning to bring new utility to the BFT token soon?
So the last utility that we announced was the integration into our retirement plan B. So now our retirement plan B clients can get priority access through their retirement plans to equity deals, and they can receive bonus rewards through that as well. One thing we are very keen to do is not do things that make it a security. We understand that people would love for us to do what Binance is and start earning tokens. But that then means that it can't be listed on cryptocurrency exchanges. And even if it goes on DEXs, we're seeing that the SEC is starting to put investigations and enforcement actions. So we don't want the Bank to the Future token to be a security. It's pure utility for those that use our platform. And so it should not be treated as an investment. It should not be bought if you're not going to use it. It is purely a utility for those that use our platform, and by securing the additional licenses and applications, it significantly increases the number of investors that we can work with and still meet our regulatory requirements and obligations. And so really that is that. Now, once we've really got many of our roadmap, we have over 300 lines on our roadmap and technical features that we would like to build and have been putting through. BFID version 2 was our big thing that investors don't really get to see until it's released. Then we're doing a securities restructuring product, and allowing us to launch some very innovative products with some big partners in the industry. Then the rebuild of the portfolio. And if we can get additional developers to really just work on the token side, then we would do that. But right now it's all about driving adoption to our services. We have never had more investors, never had more deals selling out, never had more clients wanting to list on our platform. And we're focused on the existing utility for those investors, expanding it out to our retirement plans. And then as we get more and more resources, then we can look to make further announcements. But we're sticking with the utility at the moment. No further updates other than the retirement plan integration that we announced on other episodes of BF Live.
Okay, I've received some Fox tokens recently due to being a Shapeshift shareholder. I was expecting 1/6 of my allocation, as there's apparently going to be 6 payments, but I received significantly less than 1/6. Is the distribution tapered in size?
Yeah, so we posted the update on the investor zone. I believe actually that may be due to go out today. I'll have to catch up with the corporate actions team, but then that gives all of the formulas. So if you've been involved in any of these corporate actions, we've posted all the formulas so you can calculate your tokens, calculate how many shares you may have depending on the action that you take, while we build brand new features to implement over 15 different types of corporate actions on the platform that our team are working through at the moment with real different use cases. So you would have received 1/6 of the allocation, and we'll make sure that you get those numbers so that you can check that. And if there's any challenges, of course, reach out to our support team, but we'll post all those details. I'll catch up with the corporate finance team. Just been dealing with so many things at the moment. I'm not quite sure whether that's been posted or not, but our team will follow up with that as well and make sure it's posted in the next couple of days so that you can check those allocations and check the maths.
Question from Leo. Lots of talk about SEC crackdown, Coinbase shares dip, etc. What's your opinion? FUD or natural progression for regulation and control in a good way? Thanks.
So natural progression for regulation. Any centralized company, BnkToTheFuture from day one has always been trying to get the right side of innovation and forward-thinking regulatory compliance. It's painful. It's frustrating. It's frustrating for us. It's frustrating for our investors that we have to give, probably 80% of our energy towards this. But that is the reality of being able to rebuild the future of finance. I believe that we are entering into a phase of cat and mouse where decentralized technology is being built. And then that leads to regulatory crackdowns. Centralized companies will be able to do that, but you've got to get all the decentralized innovation to compete with the centralized regulations. And Bitcoin is essentially, from my perspective, a regulator of the regulator, because it means that they can't ruin the user experience of centralized companies because there is competition in the decentralized companies. Regulations will never be able to outpace financial innovation, but they can certainly have a hit on it, and then developers come back with more innovation that actually complies, and eventually we end up with full decentralized artificial intelligence-led technology that bakes in whatever the rules may be into these peer-to-peer contracts. And the centralized companies will continue to have ever more aggressive compliance requirements. We experience that. And it's just the nature of the world that we live in today. and the trends that we're seeing. So is there going to be an SEC crackdown? Yes, they're just an under-resourced institution that hasn't had time to follow up with many of the things that they want to, and so they're trying to expand and find as many companies so that they can fund hiring more people to find more companies, and this is the trends that we will always expect to see. Our job as financial innovators is to make sure that we're funding the technology that drives forward the innovation, and that we're complying with those regulations so that we can last not just 1 decade, but 2 decades, 3 decades, and hundreds of years ahead. That's our goal. The Coinbase are perfectly set up. And no matter how hard they try and comply with various things, there will still be more things that they get wrong, and they need to adjust to. We've always, every single year, had to adjust our processes based upon our annual audits, and I'd expect the same to be happening in many of the other companies in our portfolio companies.
A question from Alan. Has the BF Global audits been completed? I was under the impression that this was happening soon, and then we'd get to see up-to-date accounts and what assets are on the books.
So we completed several different audits. So we have to do an annual internal audit from anti-money laundering, compliance, and various other things. We then did an internal audit of the financials. We have just engaged a professional company to complete the external audit of those financials, and yes, we will be able to do those. So we went through a restructuring. You had BnkToTheFuture and then the parent company BF Global, and so we have done all of the internal audits. The preparation, the great things about applying for these additional licenses is that it's making us push forward. Very, very stressful for the team, BnkToTheFuture team. I apologize in advance for the amount of stress you're having to go through at the moment. But our investors want us to move as fast as we possibly can. But applying for these additional license really stress tests and puts more things on that. So we've just managed to engage the external auditor. And if you're a BF Global shareholder, we will post an update. I know we missed Azad. We missed the last shareholder update we said we would do. So we're going to have to get that rescheduled in so that we can cover some of the more confidential things just for BF Global shareholders. But we are very excited with the numbers that we have seen in terms of the BnkToTheFuture capital value of assets that are held for our investors. Those numbers are really exciting, and being able to see some of the numbers that we've been crunching through over the last decade. Can't wait to give that to the BF Global shareholders.
What country will adopt a Bitcoin standard next?
Slightly out of from the BnkToTheFuture live topics, but making Bitcoin legal tender is the latest thing that's happened in El Salvador. Some of our portfolio companies like BitSo have been at the center stage of that, and I expect more companies to follow. It's very interesting just to see all the news updates with those that are being forced to accept Bitcoin in their everyday payments and figuring out how to deal with the volatility. It's an incredible challenge. It's not quite a Bitcoin standard until the central bank has started purchasing that Bitcoin. We don't know whether they have yet. And then I think they're going to be doing distributions of crypto out to the people. I just hope they put them in a forced hodl rather than giving people a bunch of Bitcoin that they dump onto the market, and it doesn't support the industry in many ways. And I'd expect more countries to follow. Those countries that do follow, from my forecast, will be the countries that will have the biggest purchasing power, the soundest money in the future. And I can't wait to see the redistribution of wealth that happens as a result of what I think is going to happen over the next decade.
Do we investors in BnkToTheFuture have to worry?
In terms of worry, well, I guess we've given you all the good news, the not so good news, and the great news. If you've been an investor with us for over a decade, you'll start to recognize patterns. Our style is that we always try and stay one step ahead of regulations. We adapt to these things as far, pre-adapt to them, and then the industry ends up having to follow. And our investors get angry at us because we're doing harsher requirements. And then it becomes a standard when all the other companies have to do it, but we have to take the hit there. So it's the only thing to concern yourself with is that there's going to be a bit of additional work for our investors to get through these requirements and reclassify their accounts. And that's going to be frustrating for everyone, but we'll get through it. We'll come out stronger on the other side. We'll continue doing what we have always done, which is adapting, supporting the future of finance, and bringing opportunities to invest in these companies and support our portfolios, companies and clients.
A question from Alan. Is the plan B side of the business, including acting as a fund manager, expected to bring in the majority of BF Global's income in the years ahead?
The retirement plan B has been, I think, from our perspective, the best move that we have made as an organization. The demand is through the roof. It's a complete product match to exactly what we know our investors want, having made so many of them high net worth investors over the last decade. And it's the retirement plan that I've always wanted as well. We think that it's going to completely complement what we have built at Bank to the Future, and it's really the glue that plugs it all together. So to be able to offer wealth management online solutions so that finally our investors understand how to integrate the best of traditional finance, traditional financial planning, traditional inheritance plan, tax plan, and really the tools of the absolute wealthy, being able to give that and help people understand it and empower them. And from the feedback of the first 500 people we put through those online coaching program wealth management solutions was absolutely unreal. And to be able to build the portfolio builder and get this out, we think it glues together everything. It means that people can do free education. They can then learn how to really build a portfolio and avoid many of the pitfalls, get things structured, get things right, and really do what the rich and wealthy have been doing for years, which is plan this and do things correctly. And we are, at the moment, the only platform that can fill the equity need, partner with companies like Celsius on the yield need, be able to offer like custody services to the different types of investors that are using our platform. And thanks to our virtual asset service provider registration, offer the ability to onboard into crypto as well. To be able to package that together really to me has been our lifetime work at Bank to the Future, and really we are seeing we expect incredible growth from that. As usual, everyone needs to be quite patient. We're not the fastest mover in the space, but we tend to get it in a way that hopefully has longevity, and we plan for a lot longer time frame than your average crypto company that's trying to do this as fast as possible in a DeFi smart contract. And always remember as well, one of the big challenges of scaling a company in our industry is security, not just compliance, security as well. So when a company takes on a lot of team members really fast, hopefully they're not compromising their security protocols, because you really onboarding our team members has to be done very carefully so that we don't, we maintain our very high standards that we have remained, used to make sure that we're always thinking about what's right for our investors and how to protect those along the way. The retirement plan, to be clear, is not a managed fund. We're not managing your money. We're empowering people to have their own custody accounts, their own asset protection structures, and sign an automated contract to allocate exactly how they want to be able to buy Bitcoin, buy Ether on autopilot, lend some of that Bitcoin, lend some of that Ether in the right proportion, lend some of those stable coins, and build a portfolio of equity in the largest companies of crypto through both our primary and secondary markets, all through just sending one amount each month to dollar cost average, and completely implement the retirement plan B wealth management and investing strategies. and just significantly simplify that. We're not managing your funds. We're giving you the tools to be able to manage your own funds and educating people so that they know what the professionals know, and they are a more professional, educated investor using the platform.
When the portfolio builder's when is the portfolio builder scheduled for release? Rough guess, next year or way off sometime in distant future?
We've taken on our first 10. Our next is once we've gone through 2 investment cycles, and depending on the outcome of the BFID V2 release, we'll look to take on our next 100. Once we've got the team that can serve 100 clients, then we need the team that can serve 1,000 clients, and we'll iterate it out like that. And so really there are some unknowns there. We don't like to overpromise and underdeliver. For now, we're servicing those 10 clients that acted and moved first. And then we'll look at the next 100 after the BFID V2 release. And I think, next year, early, we should be in a much stronger position to be able to scale out to many more.
Will we be? What are we going to be able to self-certify? Question from H3.
So you could self-certify as a private client, but under the existing BFID V2, you would need to prove anything that you self-certify. And so we can remove to self-certification under the new registration, but BFI V2 means that if you want to use services, and then you will need to certify your investor status under BFID V2. So the big requirement that has been put on us is that we need to get verification for what investors have already told us. And so that's what BFID version 2 does. It puts people through a simple process, or as simple as can be given these requirements that we need to go through, so that you can get through on the other side.
It seems that you are going to freeze your service for new equity rounds by end of September. What will happen if one of the previously funded companies is going public in the next couple of months? Will we get our shares as expected?
Yeah, to be clear, we're not freezing services. We're asking people to go through BFID version 2 and then reclassify. While we want all of our team to be working on supporting the reclassifications so that we can do it as fast as possible. And we thought the best way to do that is not put new pitches live. Those that get through the reclassification, then will be able to utilize our services, but we're taking a bit of a pitch break. In terms of if any of our companies go public, we have developed an awesome process, which I'm really excited about. It's not quite ready to go yet, whereby you can, off partner First Digital Trust will create a spec for everybody to receive their shares, and then they can place a sell order in their own account. And we're really excited about that, preventing you having to go through the awful process of create your own account and then have the brokers that won't transfer shares and ask a million questions, ask for a million pieces of documents, and then tell you that actually they're not going to do that, which is what we experienced through the coin. So, necessity drives innovation, and the innovation that's coming on the IPO process, we're really, really excited about. So that won't get in the way of any of the companies that go public, us being able to deliver to you that digital, innovative account, and to be able to place those sell orders, whether you're classified as high net worth, private client, or other. Excuse me, drop in the water. All right, doing for time as we got 5 minutes left. If you've enjoyed this update, please do hit the button. You may not have liked the so good news, but we're transparently giving you the information ahead of when we wanted to make the announcement because of the drama and everyone asking about that. But please do like this video, and it helps us have more people join the community. We're also going to post a follow-up blog post that outlines many of these details and makes it clear to our investors. And we'll keep going live to take more of your questions in the future. Let's do 5 minutes of questions, Azad.
Okay, so high net worth rules from the US, are they now going to be global?
So we have always allowed people to classify as high net worth investors. With US, the SEC requires that they verify. We're asking our investors outside the US to do the same, and BFID version as seamless as we can. And want to change your status to what our regulator calls a private, then you can do that, and but those services will not be available in terms of new pitches or new investments until we are able to work with those private clients, which is achieved by the additional. So we've got our existing securities registration, we've secured our virtual asset service provider registration, and the next is being able to work with private clients for securities. And for virtual assets, you'll be able to, we are at the moment able to work with non-high net worth investors. And have classify yourself. And if you don't classify yourself as high net worth and provide that, that's your prerogative. You'll be classified as a private client, and then we'll be made additional application. Once we hit a critical mass of high net worth, we will start to put pitches live, or maybe sooner we can work with private clients, and then we'll start working on pitches live. In the meantime, we'll focus on retirement plan, be online coaching program and portfolio, and start to service that and scale the team ready for the next phase of growth.
Okay, the final question, I guess, is can you please clarify the whole situation with the Celsius equity round that was supposed to launch for a long time?
Yeah, done that one. So let's go on to the next question. If you're just tuning in, rewind beginning. We covered that question 3 times, but you asked that before it was answered. So in fairness, let's find another one for the final.
Okay, question from Martin Yao. Could Bank to the Future set up a dedicated investor relations team to encourage the portfolio companies to provide investor updates? This could help them to save time to provide these updates. Just a suggestion.
Already have the team, and it doesn't stop them from ignoring or providing those updates. But yes, we need to scale that team because they're often diverted into corporate actions and dealing with other things as well. So part of one of the jobs that you'll find on the Future Careers page is that investor related role, and we are interviewing people for that role. So thank you very much. In long-term investor, built a great portfolio through. Congratulations on some of the returns that you may have received. And that's going to do it, Azad. That's the last question that we can cater for. So thank you again for making us make an announcement before we were ready to make that announcement. As always, we will support the CS team both as shareholders. If all the stars and the moons and their contracts are signed time, we will look to support their funding round. If not, we will continue to try and support them finding a suitable solution for their very, very passionate community. We will continue to work with them in partnership on our Rambi portfolio builder services, and hopefully this time next week or another week we can give you more updates in line with what happens there. So that's going to do it for this episode of Bank to the Future Live, episode 93. We gave you good news, we gave you not so good news, we gave you great news, and we give you update after update after update on these incredible flurry of companies that are implementing corporate actions. The platform, as always, we've been here for a decade. We would like here for another decade. We're building to be here for several decades, and we will hope you continue to join us on this journey of building the future finance. That's going to do it for this episode 93 of Bank to the Future Live, and we'll post log over and out. See you next time.